Are you wondering what you need to do with your outdoor rabbit hutches to make sure your rabbits stay happy and healthy through the cold winter months? Well, that's coming up next in today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name is Chris. If you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or heck, even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. In today's video, we're talking about preparing for winter in the rabbitry. Honestly, there's not a whole lot you need to do with your rabbits to prepare them for winter. Let me preface all this by saying I live in Southwest Missouri. It's not the harshest winter ever. Our average lows in the wintertime get down. We have months where it gets down pretty regularly below zero or down to about zero, and we probably average about in the mid-teens as a high for those couple of months. Other than that, it's not terribly cold all around. Today is December, 9th, I think, 10th. And today it's a high of 50 degrees out. So it's not terribly cold today, but we've had some freezing weather come along. And there's a couple of things that you do need to make sure that you do to make sure your rabbits are prepared for that. First things first, remember they've got big fur coats on. They're much happier in the cold of winter than they are in the heat of summer, especially if you live in an area where it gets up above 80, 90 degrees Fahrenheit on a regular basis. There's not a whole lot of insulation you need to do. Adding straw or hay or those kinds of things to your cages is usually not a great idea because those things absorb all the urine, they collect all the feces in them, and they become unsanitary very, very quickly. If you are going to do that, you're going to need to clean that stuff out on a fairly regular basis and get rid of it. There's also a great place for mites and parasites and those kinds of things to harbor, so it's really not a good idea to add that stuff to your rabbit cages unless you absolutely have to. I know a lot of people will make like nest boxes, basically big boxes that they stuff with straw, put in there. I found my rabbits don't use those. If they use them for anything, it's for a litter box, and that's it. They don't really get in there and burrow into the straw and hay and snuggle in. You may have a different experience with your rabbits, but it's not something that happens with mine. And again, it's a great place to harbor ear mites and those kinds of things. So I really prefer not to keep that stuff in my rabbit cages for very long at all. The rabbits themselves, again, they do fine. The biggest thing is to make sure you provide them with a wind block. And you will notice this is a little bit different if you've been watching my videos for a while than the way I usually have my rabbit cages set up. This is where my cages are right here. They sit back in here. And I've got these tarps that I just string out in front of the cage. They're screwed on at the top here. And this is a it's like a 7-foot long by 15-foot long tarp. This is going on 2 or 3 years. I've been using this specific tarp. Haven't had to replace it. They last quite a while. Heavy duty tarp. And I just stake them out to the ground. What this does is a couple of things. First of all, it gives me a place, if it's raining or something like that, to get in here, work with the rabbits, and I don't have to worry about the weather being on me. But most importantly is in the wintertime, the wind tends to shift a little bit. That direction is north. And in the summertime, our predominant wind comes out of the south. So it's blowing this way. Not a big issue because the rabbits don't like to be in full wind. It's not good for them to be in wind. They always need a wind block summer or winter. But in the summertime, our predominant wind is blowing this way. In the wintertime, it tends to shift and it kind of starts blowing from the north and coming this way. So I string the tarps out in front and that gives that blocks the wind from blowing directly on them. And that's really the biggest thing, and that's pretty much the only thing you need to do. Now, what I will say is the biggest problem with wintertime around here, right now in the middle of December, it's not too bad because our average daytime highs usually get up close to 50 degrees, so it's not staying below freezing for prolonged periods of time. But the watering system is the biggest problem. Right now, I've still got it all hooked up. We've had a couple of days where it has frozen. The whole bucket's frozen solid overnight, and in those situations, what I do is I switch over to Crocs for watering. And this is just a bowl. What I do is I come out with a milk jug and I fill it with water. I come out and I fill this about halfway full. Usually what will happen is the rabbits will come over to that, they'll drink as much as they can. And then that thing, if it's not going to get above freezing for the day, it will end up freezing. There'll be a layer of ice in the bottom of it. And then I come back out in the evening and put more water on top of that, fill it the rest of the way up, and they'll come again and drink as much as they can. And then in the morning, I take it inside, run some hot water over it, knock the ice out of it, start all over again. But you do need to water twice a day in those situations when it's not getting above freezing. They don't get enough water in that early morning before the thing freezes up. They need that water in the evenings as well. That's the biggest difficulty. Again, right now I've still got the watering system hooked up because, and I've got the bowls as well, because this time of year it typically, we might get down to 20 degrees at night, but it's late at night by the time it's getting there. Things will freeze up, the water lines will freeze up a little bit, but they thaw out pretty quickly during the day when it gets up to 50 degrees, and the watering system is working just fine. So a lot of times in the morning I'll come out and I'll add some water to the bowl to give them water to make it through midday by the time the watering system thaws out and they can get water out of the watering system. All right, another thing, I get questions all the time asking, how do you keep your watering system from freezing up? I don't. I haven't found a good way. There are, fish tank heaters and those kinds of things you can put in the bucket itself. But this is a gravity-fed system, and in a gravity-fed system, the water's not constantly running through the lines. So even if the water in the bucket stays thawed out, generally speaking, the water in the lines is going to freeze up. Even if you've got a system that does circulate the water through and keeps it from freezing up, the nipples, the nipples on the watering system themselves freeze almost instantaneously. Same thing if you've got water bottles. You really need to switch away from the water bottles, because even if you bring a fresh water bottle out, and you set that in there, it's not frozen when you bring it out, and you stick it on the cage, it doesn't take but just a minute or two, a couple of minutes in sub-freezing temperature for the nipple itself to freeze. So the water in the bottle itself may not be frozen, but the nipple's frozen and they can't get any water out of it. So you really need to switch over to Crocs. And I know a lot of people use rubber Crocs. Those are a great option. I've got ceramic ones right now, but rubber ones are nice because you don't have to take them inside and run hot water over them. You can just knock the water out of them, or the ice out of them, and they're flexible, so they kind of bend a little bit like an ice cube tray. You can just pop the ice out of them. You don't have to take them inside and run water over them to get the ice out of it. So anyway, if you had an insulated shed, or if this was all closed off, you might be able to hang some 60-watt light bulbs down near the water nipples themselves, keep them from freezing up. But with a completely outdoor hutch, there's no way to really do that I have found. Leave me a comment below though. Let me know, have you found a way to keep your water system from freezing up? I think that if you did put a heater in there, it would probably work down to about maybe 25 degrees, somewhere around in there. But when you start getting much lower than that, even heating the water bucket itself doesn't really do much good. But hey, if you found a way to do that, let me know below. I'd love to hear from you on that, be able to share that with the rest of my viewers. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching all of my videos, following my channel, and to my subscribers, I appreciate every single one of you. And as always, God bless.